Now, before we start the show today, I need you guys to listen to what I have been listening to because I think I know what it is, but I'm not quite sure. So listen to this. Do you hear it? I think that might be leftists when talking about Iran. Esto es Mari sin censura. Vamos para allá. Before I start this, I just did the entire show and I didn't realize that my microphone wasn't working. Dios mío. All right, I'm going to try to do this all over again. Now, if you've been living underneath a rock, or in this case, you're a leftist, which we'll get into in a little bit, you know that the Iranian people have taken their streets back to demand the end of the Islamic regime. And goddamn, do they deserve this? Because it's been 47 years underneath a theocratic regime that rules Iran with an iron fist, headed by the Ayatollah Khomeini. And Ayatollah Khomeini rules Iran underneath Sharia law, which is based in, of course, Islam. The entire country is on the basis of what Islam and Society of Islam should and become. And let me give you guys a picture of what that really means, because you're watching it. You're watching it right now. You're watching an illegal activity if you were in Iran right now. Me, a woman, talking to you, my opinions, and I'm going to publish it for the world to see, and with my hair out? I mean, off with my head if it was up to Ayatollah Khomeini. And you guys as well, off with your heads for listening to me. So if that is the basis of rights and a society in Iran, could you imagine gays in Iran? Could you imagine women in Iran? Could you imagine free speech for anyone in Iran? Or religious freedom for anybody in Iran? Or might I dare say, democracy? No, so that's why it's been very peculiar to see the left, the Susies and the Tommies of the world with their blue hair and their septum rings, be silent on this. They're silent while in the last 5 days, it's reported that up to 20,000 people have been killed in Iran for doing this, for doing the exact same thing that I'm doing and what you're doing right now. They're silent. But it doesn't surprise me, you see. It doesn't surprise me one bit. Not at all. But I want you guys to get a big picture of where Persians are finding their frustration right now. Because maybe for Persians, this might be a new thing. Even for Venezuelans in the past week, this might be a new thing. But for us, Cuban Americans, if for certainly me, this is not a new thing at all. So I want to show you guys a TikTok that I found of a man talking about his frustrations, a Persian guy protesting, I believe, in Los Angeles. So let me show you guys this.
I used to be a Democrat. I stood by you guys because you promised us liberty, justice, diversity. This is not diversity. Your silence is complicit. Democrats, wake the damn up. This is not okay. Iranian people right now, they're in prison. They're in prison. They're in complete digital blackout. How can you be silent?
Well, there you go. I mean, this is a guy that was a Democrat probably a month ago, and now he's wearing a MAGA hat. Could you imagine that for a second? He's wearing a MAGA hat because of the frustrations that he has seen on the left. Because no Hollywood actor is saying free Iran. None of them. There's no Greta Thunberg saying, how dare you, to the Ayatollah Khomeini. Nobody. There's no protest on the college campuses. It's absolutely silent. Silent. And I want to show you guys another TikTok that I found that really kind of explains where we're getting up into this point. And I found it extremely fascinating. So let's see this TikTok from this guy.
Iran's story right now could be the checkmate moment for Free Palestine. I think it's fascinating. Obviously, none of us are surprised that those same Free Palestine people are not right now chanting Free Iran in the streets. We don't need another post explaining the hypocrisy there. It's a reflection of the fact that they cannot not because of their choice. They can't because of the rules.
Because of the rules. Now, that is a fascinating statement that he says there. He never gets into what those rules really are or why those rules are those rules. And that's what I'm going to get into today. But I find it very fascinating that he says they can't go against the rules. But what are those rules, you know? What are those rules? Now, he's going to explain one of them, the more obvious one, in the next segment. So let's keep going.
Condemn what is happening right now with the regime and how they're treating Iranians, because it would also mean that they would be condemning the same thing that they've indirectly been supporting for 2+ years. Because you and I and everyone else knows at this point, the supply chain between the IRGC and groups like Hamas, and when Free Palestine goes to Columbia University and has students wearing green bandanas supporting the liberation movement against the apartheid state Zionists here, what they are doing is they're supporting the regime because the regime is what has funded groups like Hamas to then get college students.
Well, that's basic, right? So all of these people who are free Hamas, free Palestine, they can't really protest for free Iran because they know Iran funds Hamas. Because for them, it's never been about a free Palestine. It's never been about freeing Palestine from Hamas. It's always been this kind of weird utopian vision of society where Israel doesn't exist and it's just one big state of Palestine and Israel just goes away, which I don't know if anyone touches grass lately, but that's not going to happen. The state of Israel's not going anywhere. So for them, it wasn't really about progressing society. It was more about the elimination of a state called Israel. So how could they side with free Iran when Iran is the one battling against Israel through their proxy, Palestine, right? The Palestinian people are the proxy for the Iranians, for the Persian regime, for the Islamic Republic. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but every country acts in their best interest, and the Islamic Republic is no exception to that. They fund guerrilla movements all over the Middle East to protect their national interests, and Hamas is one of them, right? So that's the more obvious thing of why they have been so silent on this issue. But let's keep going because I find his video very fascinating.
Tommy and Susan over at Columbia to protest. But what we're also seeing right now is what we would all call the cutting of the head of the snake. And it's fascinating because Israel has indirectly contributed to this. When you cut off the head of the snake, suddenly you have silence now and the hypocrisy is tenfold. It's a checkmate moment. This is literally history unfolding. And if I'm anybody that has supported any of these Free Palestine protests and you have maybe been in the back, I'm asking myself, so sure, I'm not screaming death to Israel and death to America, and I don't love Israelis, and I don't love the IDF, and yeah, they're all terrorists too. But wow, almost 6,000 people have estimated to have been killed right now by the regime in Iran. Why are we also just not doing the right thing, which is the right thing is to now speak up on behalf of the people of Iran, regardless? Because all of the Angelina Jolies of the world won't say a thing. And this is the reflection of truth coming forward and the clouds beginning to move and the Wi-Fi beginning to turn on. I think it's fascinating. I think it's amazing. Cheer on Iran. Cheer on the people. This is 2026, ladies and gentlemen. This is power to the people. Systems and governments are going down. People are coming up. Truth is going to rise too. It's amazing.
So I find that really a fascinating video. I mean, there's a few things in there that I would philosophically push back on, especially when it comes to the end of the systems and the rise of the people, but the people wanting more socialism, especially with these Free Palestine movements. They want more socialism, which means more government and more bureaucrats and more corruption. But anyways, regardless, I think it's a very interesting video because it really sets the stage up. Like, why aren't people talking about it? Of course, because they're so focused on Israelis. But why are they so focused on Israelis? Why are the rules the way that they are? Who brought these rules? What are the rules? And I think I have a thesis. Now, my thesis might get me in trouble. It might get me in trouble. Oh my God, this is my second video and it might get me in trouble. But I do have a thesis and I really hope that you guys in the comments push me, engage with me. Let's work it out together. Maybe some things I can be swayed. Like everybody in life, I have changed, I have grown, I have looked at things a different way. But this is where I think the thesis comes into play. And it all starts with this right here. The Communist Manifesto. Now you guys are like, probably like, Mari, ¿cómo es que tú tienes este libro? How dare you have this book? Well, hello, I gotta know my enemies, you guys. I have to know what's in this book if I'm gonna talk shit about communists, right? I have read this book so many times, and this is the key to the modern leftist movement today. This is the key. Now, of course, you're probably like, ay, Mari, no otra vieja diciendo lo mismo. Not another old woman saying the same shit. And trust me, 10 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes at me today. But as things unfold, things change in the world, movements change in the world. I see it now more clearly than ever. So let me explain why I think this is the basis of the modern leftist movement. And when I talk about modern leftists, I'm not talking about your run-of-the-mill Democrats, your liberals, the normies of the world that will go out and protest against Trump. I'm not talking about that because, sure, I'm in that camp sometimes too. I'm out there protesting against Trump. But I'm talking about socialists. I'm talking about the real fucking progressives in this country. I'm talking about Bernie bros. I'm talking about the AOC heads. I am the influencers. I'm talking about the Sorons of the world. That's who I am talking about. And it comes from here. So Marx in this book really puts together the entire philosophy that he has been observing in his time, which was the 1800s in Germany. And he says in this book that the world is really divided between two things, the oppressors and the oppressed, right? And when he talks about the oppressors and the oppressed, he conceptualizes this in economic terms, which is historical materialism. Between the historical materialism between the oppressed and the oppressors, there comes two different economic classes, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. And the bourgeoisie have all the money in the world. They have all the resources. They own everything. They own the warehouses. They own the factories. They own the properties. They own everything, right? And the oppressed are the class, the proletariat, that are the working class. They are exploited by the bourgeoisie. They're exploited by the rich class, the oppressors, right? And so you have two main classes fighting against each other. Now, Marx continues to say that in order to have a more equitable, a more free, a more equal society, in order to get to communism, which is anarchy, basically, you have to be in a revolution. And that revolution consists of socialism. It consists of central economic planning, where the means of production are owned by the workers, which means a bureaucratic class must come in and distribute things equally. So that in order then for the progression to continue into communism, where there is no need for a state, that everybody lives freely in utopia and everybody shares everything and everybody works for everybody else, right? Bullshit. But the basis of this philosophy, really more than just a political theory, it's also a philosophical one, because it really sets the stage for people to think that there is an oppressor and an oppressed. And so that's where we get cultural Marxists, because they don't apply this theory just to economics. They apply it to culture. They apply it everywhere. And since the communists weren't able to really gain a foot in Western societies with their economic models, they're applying it to everything from art to history to, dare I say, race. And that's where this comes in, is because for the past decade or so, the 15, 20 years in the ivory towers of Columbia University and Harvard University, they have taught Americans, they have taught college students that the oppressors, through foreign policy, through domestic policy, through all political aspects, and through all society, and through all history, and through all artwork, and through all economic social problems, are Americans. there are Americans. Americans are the bad people, right? And you see this really manifested because leftists, no matter who it is, always takes the side that is against America. If America is involved, they're always taking the other side. Always. Because, of course, those are the oppressed. Those are the pobrecitos. Those people are the ones being beaten down by the white imperialist, the Americans, without ever realizing that who they deem as oppressed also engage in oppression. This doesn't compute to them. This can't be. They were taught Americans were the bad ones. They were taught that anything that America does was evil. Anything that America does was awful. So a government saying and chanting and their official propaganda to 90 million people is death to America. Well, they're on board with that. Of course. Death to America. America has done so much evil around the world. America is the only one that does evil around the world. But, of course, that's not true because other countries engage in this evil atrocities. Brown people engage in evil and atrocities. White people also as well. So when we talk about oppressed versus oppressor, they only engaged in that when it's convenient, when it's Americans doing it, or dare I say, when it's white people doing it. I mean, it's kind of ironic that their entire worldview is centered on Americanism. It's ethnocentrically American, that they view everything in the American point of view, that they're anti-American, right? I find that's like a little bit ironic there, but they can't compute. They can't compute because all of their information, all of their ivory tower education comes from information that is from other Americans or from what America has done to other countries. They never stop and say, hey, if we hate imperialism, it's probably bad that the Iranian government uses imperialist tactics in the Middle East all the time to groups like Hamas, Hezbollah. That's also bad, right? Because their worldview isn't centered around is imperialism bad or not. It's centered around if American imperialism is bad or not. You see the difference here? They are unable to compute. They're unable to understand that everybody, because it's human nature, engages in atrocities, in self-interest, in self-preservation. And that is why so many are silent. They're silent because they cannot disengage with these two thoughts, right? That all of the bad things are coming from America, is coming from the United States. It is, the United States are the evil people, right? But they can't compute that imperialism might be the evil thing. Oppression might be the evil thing. Killing people for their thoughts, for their basic human right of having a property within their own mind might be the evil thing. And it doesn't matter who does it. We should all stand against that. No, it's only when the Americans do it. It's only when Americans do it. The Anglo-Saxons of the world, the Western civilization does it. That's why they don't give a shit about what's happening in Africa. They don't give a fuck what's happening in India, Pakistan. They don't give a fuck what's happening in Afghanistan. They don't give a fuck about what's happening in brown nations or third world nations because the West are the only people capable of atrocities. Only people. They did this to Venezuelans. They did this to Venezuelans a week ago. And people are saying, and they're surprised, Persians, if any Persian is listening to me right now, this is no shock to any of us. No shock to anybody because they do it to Cuban Americans all the time. Because Cuban Americans come to the United States, they typically vote Republican because, of course, who would want to vote for people saying that Fidel Castro was a revolutionary, right? We don't want to vote for anybody that says Fidel Castro is a revolutionary. So Cuban Americans tend to lean right. They tend to lean Republican. And how dare Latino become Republican? Because of course, they stereotyped everybody in their effort to not be racist, right? And not be prejudiced, that they stereotype Latinos into one monolithic thing, blob. We're all thinking the same way. We all have the same thoughts. We all have the same experiences, right? So how dare we vote for Republicans? Because we're self-hating Latinos. We're self-hating Latinos, and we are white. We want to be whitey, not white, YT. I don't know. And how dare they? So they speak over us. They gaslight us. They tell us what our history is, what our lives were, where our lived experiences were. No, they say, oh, you only had that lived experiences because of the United States, right? They do all of these things to discredit us. And they have been doing it for years now. Years. I mean, just in my case alone, when I started going on TikTok with Yoel and I started documenting his life and how the different, reactions that he has, I could not believe the amount of Sarahs and Tommies with their blue hair and their nose septum rings telling us that we were lying. Telling me that Yoel is exaggerating. Oh, that he only has those feelings because of the United States. Right? So I've known for a very long time that this was the actions of leftists, socialists and communists, let me say. I've always known this. So Persians making these videos, to me, it's like, I could have told you this 10 years ago. I could have told you this 5 years ago. I mean, you guys experienced it a little bit when that woman that was killed, forgive me, I can't remember her name, the killed were not wearing a hijab. And the Iranians protested on the street in 2022, I believe. You guys experienced a little bit of that. But this feels much more palpable. This feels much different. And it feels way more silent. So I say to Persians, buckle up. This ain't anything new. And don't look for refuge in the left side, unfortunately. Unfortunately, do not look for refuge there. So they're too busy looking towards that oppressor instead of your oppressor, instead of our oppressors, which are socialists and communists, in our case. In the Persians' case, it's the theocratics, the right and green alliance, the red and green alliance. They're too busy looking at those oppressors. Right? Because they can't fathom that these are the oppressors as well. They can't fathom that. And so my final thoughts is that's why they're silent. That is why they're silent. It all comes down to Marxism applied in culture. That is why they are not speaking. This right here. And like I said, I would have rolled my eyes at myself 10 years ago if I had heard myself. But this is more prevalent now than ever. And it's this right here. I'm going to get canceled. Pero bueno. It's only my second show. Pero bueno. I can't be swayed. I can't be swayed. So sway me in the comments. I like philosophical debates. And I'm never stuck to one theory. There's always multiple theories out there. Always running at the same times. So comment them below. And in the meantime, subscribe. Subscribe. By the way, subscribe. Please.
How dare you!